Chapter 1. Introduction and Context. Whispers of Lost Stone. Far in the mountains of southern Siberia, in a quiet place untouched by cities or factories, there is a mysterious site called Gornaya Shoria. For a long time, it was just seen as a rough, rocky part of the earth. But in recent years, people have started to wonder if it might be the remains of an ancient structure made by humans long ago. This idea comes from the huge stone blocks found there. Some of these stones are shaped with flat sides and sharp corners. Some look like they've been stacked on top of each other, almost like parts of a building. They are so big that it's hard to believe people could have moved or shaped them without modern machines. If these stones really were placed by humans, they would be bigger than anything else built in ancient times. It would mean there was once a civilization with knowledge and skills far beyond what we thought possible, maybe even more than 100,000 years ago. This idea challenges what most scientists believe, which is why many experts ignore it. In 2013, Russian researcher Georgy Cidarof led a team into the Shoria Mountains. He believed the stone blocks were left by a long-lost civilization. His team took photos and gave eyewitness accounts. They described giant stones, some possibly weighing 3,000 or even 4,000 tons, with smooth sides, sharp angles, and signs they were placed on purpose. Still, no official studies have been done. No major university has gone to the site. There are no roads or protections, and the site remains mostly hidden and unexplored. For whatever reason, Gornaya Shoria has been left out of formal archaeology. But the question remains, could this be the broken remains of a very old and very advanced culture? Could we have missed an important piece of human history simply because we weren't willing to consider it? Chapter 2. Geological and Regional Overview. The Bones of an Ancient World. Gornaya Shoria, which means mountainous Shoria, is filled with thick forests, steep hills, and harsh weather. Because it's so remote, very few people visit, and the land has stayed mostly untouched. This isolation has helped keep its secrets safe. Gornaya Shoria sits on top of one of the oldest and most stable parts of the Earth's crust, the Siberian craton. The main type of rock here is granite, which is made of minerals like quartz, feldspar, and mica. Granite is incredibly hard. Even today, shaping granite takes powerful tools. In ancient times, it would have been nearly impossible to work with, using only simple tools. Over millions of years, nature can break down granite in interesting ways. Freezing and thawing, heat and cold, and the natural cracks in the rock can slowly shape granite into blocks with flat sides and sharp corners. This kind of weathering has created strange rock formations all over the world, like in Yosemite, USA, and parts of Norway. Scientists explain these shapes as natural results of erosion and stress over a long time. During the Soviet period, scientists studied this area. Surveys from the 1970s to 1990s described the Gornaya Shoria ridges as denudated prepared ridges. That means the rocks were worn down by erosion along natural cracks in the stone, making them look like stacked blocks. In some cases, nature really can make rocks look like they were shaped or placed by people. But what people are seeing in Gornaya Shoria seems too exact to be random. Instead of the usual jagged and uneven patterns found in granite, the stones here often look regular and squared off. They have flat sides, sharp corners, and in some cases look like they've been moved or stacked. In certain areas, huge blocks are even balanced on top of each other in vertical stacks. This makes it hard to believe it all happened by chance. Some experts say this might just be pareidolia. That's when our brains see familiar shapes, like faces or buildings, in random patterns. But even skeptics admit Gornaya Shoria is an extreme example. Whether it's nature, humans, or something else, what we see here pushes the limits of what erosion should be able to do. The size of these stones also stands out. Some blocks are 20 to 40 feet wide, and they look like they were carefully cut or placed. There's no clear evidence of tools or ancient building equipment, and no signs of people living nearby. Still, the stones seem too regular to be natural. If nature made these shapes by itself, this might be the best example ever found of rocks looking like buildings. But if they were shaped or moved by someone, then we're looking at something that doesn't fit into our current understanding of history or technology. Chapter 3. Visual Claims and Structural Observations. Stones that speak in geometry. People around the world first heard about Gornaya Shoria not because of scientific reports, but because of photographs. These photos, taken during Georgi Cidarov's 2013 trip to the mountains, were later shared online in forums about ancient mysteries and strange archaeology. What caught everyone's attention were the huge stone blocks, arranged in ways that looked planned and intentional. Many of the blocks in the photos look like rectangles. They have flat sides, straight edges, and corners that almost look like they were cut at 90 degrees. Unlike rounded stones that form naturally over time, these blocks seem out of place. In some pictures, the blocks look like they were stacked to form steps, platforms, or walls. In others, they are lying around as if a building had once stood there and collapsed. What's especially odd is how these blocks appear to be separate from the bedrock around them. They don't just look like broken-off pieces of one big granite formation. Instead, they seem like individual blocks, placed on top of each other or leaning side by side, with small gaps between them, like building blocks. One photo stands out. It shows a giant stone with three sides forming nearly perfect right angles. Its surfaces are smooth and clean, without the usual signs of weather damage. This kind of precision is hard to explain with normal erosion. Usually, granite breaks in uneven and rough shapes, not sharp-edged blocks. Skeptics say this could still be natural. Sometimes, rocks split along natural lines of weakness. This process, called jointing, can make rocks break in patterns, and occasionally those patterns look like squares or rectangles. In some cases, it can even create columns or block-like shapes. But even experts admit it's rare for this to happen in such a neat and repeated way, especially when it looks like giant blocks have been stacked on top of each other or hollowed out to make rooms. Supporters of the idea that the site is artificial compare the stones to other ancient places like Pumapunku in Bolivia, where massive stone blocks also show straight edges and precise cuts. Others bring up Baalbek in Lebanon, where huge stones were placed so precisely that even a knife blade can't fit between them. Still, we must be careful. Sometimes cameras make things look more perfect than they are. But here's the key point. There are a lot of photos from different angles, and they all show the same kind of blocks. In some images, you can see dozens of these stones at once. That makes it harder to say it's just a trick of light or one lucky photo. Chapter 4. The Cidarof Expedition and Claims of Artificiality into the Granite Heart of Siberia. In the summer of 2013, a group of Russian explorers, led by Georgi Cidarof, went deep into the Shoria Mountains. Their goal was to investigate strange stories about massive stone blocks hidden in this remote part of Siberia. Cidarof is known in Russia for his books about ancient lost civilizations and alternative history. For him, this trip wasn't just an adventure, it was a search for evidence of a forgotten past. The team had 19 people, most of them volunteers and independent researchers. They traveled to a place called Mount Kylium, a remote granite mountain over 3,600 feet high. There are no roads or towns nearby, so getting there was difficult. Using GPS, satellite images, and help from local guides, they reached a ridge where strange rock formations had been spotted. What they found surprised them. They tried to measure some of the stones and estimated that certain blocks weighed hundreds to over 3,000 tons. It's important to say here that these numbers were not confirmed by scientists or engineers. The team didn't use advanced tools like ground scanners or precise measurements. So while the numbers are exciting, we can't say for sure they're correct. Still, if even some of their weight guesses are close to true, it would be shocking, because even the largest ancient stones we know of, like those in Baalbek, are only about 800 to 1,600 tons. If they were shaped by people, then history is missing something huge. Cidarof suggested it could have been built hundreds of thousands of years ago by a civilization we don't know about. Whether true or not, his expedition did something important. They went to the site and took photos of a place almost no one knew about. That alone made people pay attention. After the trip, Cidarof kept writing and talking about the site. He believes the stones are remains of a civilization that lived in the far north, which he calls Hyperborea, and was wiped out by a major disaster. Chapter 5. Megalithic Weight and Precision Controversy. Stones too heavy to explain away. The blocks at Gornaya Shoria are said to be made of granite. Granite is one of the hardest natural stones. It's very strong and difficult to cut. On the Mohs scale of hardness, granite scores between 6 and 7. Cutting granite with precision usually takes tools made with diamonds or other super-hard materials. If these giant granite blocks really do weigh 2,000 to 3,000 tons, that would be a huge mystery. There's no sign that ancient people had the technology to shape and move blocks this large, especially not in the middle of the Siberian mountains, where there are no roads, quarries, or tool marks. But here's where the debate begins. No one has done official measurements. No laser scans, no 3D models, and no detailed studies have been made of the blocks. Most of the weight estimates come from looking at photos and guessing the size. But granite is very dense, so even small mistakes in guessing a block's size can lead to big errors in the weight. Still, some photos clearly show blocks that look to be around 10 meters long, 5 meters high, and 4 meters thick. If those measurements are even close to correct, then these blocks could weigh around 2,000 tons or more. That alone makes the site worth serious attention from experts. Another part of the mystery is how some of the blocks look so precisely shaped. Natural forces like wind, water, and freezing can crack rocks and make flat faces. But the blocks at Gornaya Shoria appear to be very regular in shape. Many look like rectangles with sharp corners, and some seem stacked on top of each other with almost no space in between. People who believe the site is man-made say nature doesn't usually stack huge blocks neatly or form massive walls 100 feet tall. Could these be the remains of a massive ancient structure, destroyed long ago and half buried by nature? Chapter 6. Hypotheses of Construction and Destruction. A Shattered Legacy in Stone. Like many ancient mysteries, the strange stone blocks at Gornaya Shoria seem to tell a story. but it is a broken one. For people who believe these stones were once part of a huge building or complex, the next big question is simple. What happened to it? If this was once a fortress or a sacred site, what destroyed it and left only scattered stone blocks behind? During the 2013 expedition, Georgy Cidarov and his team shared a theory. They believed the site was destroyed by a massive disaster. Some of the stones looked like they had been thrown or pushed far from where they originally stood. A few were hundreds of meters away from nearby formations. The team also said they saw signs of burning, black marks on the rocks, broken edges, and even areas that looked scorched. To them, this meant the site had been hit by intense heat or an explosion. No lab tests have been done on the burned areas. However, based on what they saw and some odd compass readings nearby, the team believed something powerful, maybe an explosion or some kind of energy, tore the structure apart. Cidarof even suggested something more extreme. He wondered if an ancient war or a failed machine from a lost civilization caused the damage. This idea may sound like science fiction, but similar claims have been made about other ancient sites. For example, Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan has long been the focus of rumors about ancient explosions or radiation. Even without high-tech theories, a big earthquake could be a possible cause. The Shoria Mountains are in an area where the Earth's crust moves and shifts. A strong earthquake, landslide, or ground collapse could break up large stone structures. But skeptics say this theory does not fully explain things. They point out there are no clear cracks in the nearby land. There is not enough loose rubble around the blocks, and there is no visible fault line in the area. Thus, it was unlikely to be an earthquake. As mentioned, another idea is that the stones were shaped and placed a very long time ago, maybe more than 100,000 years ago. If that is true, then the area would have gone through many ice ages. Over time, glaciers, freezing and thawing, and floods could have moved or broken even huge blocks. But granite is a strong rock, and the way many of the blocks are still lined up suggests that something more sudden happened, not slow damage over thousands of years. So what clues do we have that a large structure once stood here and was violently destroyed? Some blocks appear to match along broken edges. They look like they used to be connected, but were split apart. Some blocks are far from where they might have originally stood, and they do not leave behind trails of debris that you would expect if they rolled there naturally. Furthermore, as mentioned previously, some stones show black marks or signs of extreme heat. This is not common in natural granite, unless something like fire or lightning caused it. Some hillsides around the site look broken or disturbed in ways that do not match normal erosion or weathering. One thing seems clear. Something happened here. Chapter 7. Magnetic Anomalies and the Compass Mystery. A silent force. Beneath the stone, among the most intriguing claims made by researchers at Gornaya Shoria is that certain stones exhibit magnetic anomalies that disrupt compasses. According to members of the 2013 expedition, compass needles near some of the granite blocks spun erratically or pointed away from the stones instead of toward magnetic north. This effect reportedly occurred consistently at specific points across the site. While compass anomalies alone are not unheard of in nature, especially in regions rich in magnetically charged minerals, the suggestion here is that the phenomena are more localized and deliberate. If true, this would indicate the presence of magnetic fields strong enough to override the Earth's magnetic influence in small but focused areas. One natural explanation is the presence of high concentrations of magnetite or other ferromagnetic minerals within the granite itself. Granite can vary widely in composition depending on the mineral makeup of its source magma. In some parts of the world, magnetite inclusions are dense enough to cause minor compass deviation. However, what was observed at Gornaya Shoria appears to go beyond what is typically expected in such rock formations. Reports describe sudden needle shifts, even complete reversals of compass orientation, within arm's reach of specific blocks. This raises two possibilities. One is that the granite blocks, if shaped by human or advanced hands, were deliberately sourced from or altered to contain magnetic minerals for an unknown purpose. Another is that some ancient technology embedded within or beneath the stones still emits electromagnetic signatures today, long after its function has ceased. These ideas remain speculative, but they match claims made at other anomalous sites, such as the megalithic ruins of Sacsayhuaman or the dolmens of the Caucasus, where similar compass behavior has been reported by researchers. Without a controlled study, it is impossible to rule out human error, instrument malfunction, or localized iron-rich soil as contributing factors. Still, the fact that multiple visitors have reported similar magnetic behavior across different years suggests that this is not a mere coincidence. A rigorous investigation using geophysical tools could determine whether the site contains natural magnetic hotspots or if something more mysterious is embedded within the stone layers. If confirmed, such anomalies would not only deepen the enigma surrounding Gornaya Shoria, they would introduce the possibility that the site was once engineered to interact with Earth's geomagnetic field. Whether as a kind of resonant energy structure, an ancient compass, or something beyond modern understanding, the magnetism of these stones may be more than just geological. This leads us to ask whether the builders, if they existed, had a knowledge of Earth's forces that rivals or even surpasses our own. Chapter 8. Comparisons with other megalithic sites. Echoes across the Earth. The mystery of Gornaya Shoria becomes even more interesting when we compare it to other ancient stone sites around the world. In many different places, we find huge blocks of stone, some shaped with great precision, that raise similar questions. Were these structures built using the same ideas? Could they be part of a global tradition of building with stone long before written history began? Take Baalbek in Lebanon. There, giant stone blocks weighing up to 1,200 tons were placed perfectly into the base of a temple. These are some of the heaviest stones ever used in construction. Mainstream experts say the Romans moved them using basic tools and rolling methods. But many people think that explanation does not fully make sense. The blocks are just too big and too well placed. Another site often discussed is Pumapunku in Bolivia. It sits high in the Andes Mountains and is filled with stone blocks that have perfect 90-degree angles, straight cuts, and holes drilled in very hard stone. Experts say the site was built around 500 AD by the Tiwanaku culture. However, others believe the work is much older and is done with tools or knowledge we no longer have. In Russia itself, there are ancient stone tombs in the Caucasus Mountains called dolmens. These were made with large stone slabs, arranged with care and sometimes featuring circular openings. Though not as well known as Stonehenge, these dolmens show that people in the region knew how to build with heavy stones and align them with purpose. Some researchers wonder if that tradition reached all the way to Gornaya Shoria. When we look at Gornaya Shoria alongside these other places, some things are the same. The stones have sharp edges and look like they were stacked or arranged, not just broken naturally. Like many other megalithic sites, there are no carvings or writing on the blocks, but this is true at several other mysterious stone sites as well. One more thing these sites have in common is where they are found. Many are far from cities or trade routes. They are hidden in mountains, forests, or deserts. This makes people ask, why would ancient builders move huge stones to such remote places unless it was for a very important reason? Maybe these places were sacred, or maybe they were part of something larger. There is another link too. As mentioned, at Gornaya Shoria, many blocks look like they were thrown or broken by a violent force. The same is said about Pumapunku and Baalbek. Some people believe these sites were damaged by earthquakes, invasions, or even great disasters that destroyed a much older civilization. All around the world, huge stone structures suggest that ancient people, maybe even a lost civilization, knew how to work with stone in ways we do not fully understand today. Maybe Gornaya Shoria was part of that network. Chapter 9. Subsurface and Architectural Features. Beneath the mountain's skin. One of the most surprising claims about Gornaya Shoria is that an underground shaft was discovered during the 2013 expedition. According to the team, this shaft goes down more than 130 feet into the solid rock and leads to a large, hidden chamber below. They said the walls of the shaft were lined with smooth stone slabs, placed in straight lines, and looked more like a hallway built by someone than a crack formed by nature. At the bottom of the shaft, they described a massive underground space, over 100 feet high. It was filled with enormous granite blocks placed closely together, almost touching. Some of the stones looked like columns or supports, and they seemed carefully arranged, not randomly scattered. The chamber's size and shape did not match typical natural caves or lava tubes that form in this region. So far, there are no official maps, blueprints, or 3D scans showing this shaft or chamber. But the photos from the expedition seem to show straight-sided openings, narrow corridors, and flat stone paths that don't look natural. If real, this could mean that Gornaya Shoria is not just a pile of surface stones, but a much larger hidden structure underground. Some people have compared this to places like the Hypogeum in Malta or the tunnels under the pyramids in Egypt. Those places were carved out with care and may have had both religious and practical uses. If Gornaya Shoria also has a large underground area, it raises a big question. Why would ancient builders, working with such heavy stones, go to the trouble of building beneath a mountain? Some think it was a vault or energy chamber, built to last and to stay hidden. Others believe it was a special room used for rituals, known only to a few people. Another idea is that the chamber was part of a larger complex, with buildings above ground, secret passages, and maybe even machines that no longer work. There is also the question of how such a shaft could have been made. Granite is one of the hardest rocks on Earth. Cutting a deep, straight shaft through it would be very difficult, even today. If the shaft and chamber are man-made, then whoever built them had tools or knowledge far beyond anything we associate with ancient Siberia. Many old legends from around the world talk about underground cities, hidden vaults, and secret chambers under the earth. These stories are not proof, but they show that the idea of something powerful or sacred buried underground is common in many cultures. If the underground chamber is real, it could change everything we think we know about the site and about ancient history itself. Chapter 10. Theories of Technological Function. Resonance, Power, and forgotten purpose. If the giant stones and possible underground chamber at Gornaya Shoria were built on purpose, then the big question is why? What was the reason for creating such a huge structure in the middle of nowhere? Many ideas have been suggested. These theories go beyond regular archaeology. They come from alternative science, ancient legends, and comparisons with other mysterious sites around the world. Some researchers think the stones were shaped and placed to connect with the Earth's natural energy, like magnetism, sound waves, or vibrations. Granite has a lot of quartz in it, which is a mineral that can react to pressure by making tiny electrical charges. This is called the piezoelectric effect. Some believe that if the granite blocks were lined up just right, they could act like a battery or an energy conductor. This theory is similar to ideas about the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. Some people believe that the pyramid was not just a tomb, but also a kind of ancient power station. Gornaya Shoria shares some of the same features: huge stones, precise shapes, and possible magnetic effects. So some think it might have worked in a similar way. Another theory is that the site was used to watch or measure changes in the Earth. For example, it could have been an early warning system for earthquakes or solar activity. The deep shaft under the site, if it really exists, might have worked like a giant listening chamber, picking up vibrations from inside the planet. People have said similar things about other ancient sites like Stonehenge, where the layout of the stones lines up with stars and seasons. Some people go even further. They think Gornaya Shoria might have been an ancient factory or a place where energy was made and used. In this idea, the stones and underground rooms weren't for religion, they were practical. Maybe machines or tools were once stored there. Maybe energy fields were created underground. No one has found any pieces of ancient machines, but believers say the site is so old that all evidence may be gone or hidden on purpose. One of the most unusual theories is that Gornaya Shoria was part of a worldwide network of ancient energy sites. These would be connected by ley lines, invisible paths of energy crossing the Earth. In this theory, each site, like the pyramids, Stonehenge, or Pumapunku, was a kind of station in a global system used to share power or information long ago. Still, no one has measured the energy coming from the site. There are no radiation levels, no sound frequencies, and no electric fields that have been tested and confirmed. Without scientific tools and proper studies, these are only guesses. Chapter 11. The Global Civilization Hypothesis. A forgotten blueprint, shared by distant cultures. As more people compare Gornaya Shoria to other ancient stone sites around the world, a bigger idea starts to take shape. This idea says that long ago, before recorded history, there may have been a global civilization. A civilization that built with giant stones, knew advanced science, and left behind huge structures in many parts of the world. Most of this civilization is now lost, but pieces of it may still remain in the form of mysterious megalithic sites. People who believe this theory point out the similarities between far-apart places. At Gornaya Shoria, we see giant blocks of granite, smooth surfaces, and sharp angles. At other sites, like Baalbek in Lebanon, Sacsayhuaman in Peru, Pumapunku in Bolivia, Nan Madol in the Pacific, and Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, we see the same kind of giant stones, tight fits, and strange building methods. These sites are found in different cultures and periods, yet they share the same strange features. Most of these sites also have three things in common. First, they seem to be extremely old. Second, They often don't have writing or signs that tell us who built them. And third, their construction is hard to explain with simple tools or local technology. As mentioned, many of them are also built in hard-to-reach places like mountains, jungles, and deserts. If they were all made by one civilization, it must have been skilled, widespread, and able to build in harsh conditions. At Gornaya Shoria, no pottery, bones, or tools have been found. Some people use that to argue the site is just a natural rock formation, but others believe the silence is part of the story. Maybe these places were not homes or villages, but something different. Writers like Graham Hancock, Michael Cremo, Zechariah Sitchin, and John Anthony West have said for years that human history is much older than we are taught. They believe that advanced cultures existed long before the last ice age. Then, a massive disaster, like a flood, destroyed them. The few survivors passed down their knowledge through stories and myths. These include legends like the Great Flood from the Bible, the destruction of Atlantis told by Plato, and similar stories from India and Central America. According to this idea, Gornaya Shoria might be one of the last physical signs of that lost world. If the stories from the 2013 expedition are true, about huge-shaped blocks, deep shafts, and underground chambers, then Gornaya Shoria could be one of the most important ancient sites ever found. But mainstream scientists say that people living in Siberia thousands of years ago were hunters and gatherers with simple tools. They were not supposed to be building anything like this. This disagreement between what we think we know and what might be seen in the stones is what keeps this theory alive. The theory of a global ancient civilization isn't about proving just one site. It's about patterns. Patterns in stonework, in building style, in the way ancient myths speak of golden ages, destruction, and rebuilding. If Gornaya Shoria fits that pattern, then it may not be an isolated mystery. It could be part of a worldwide story, stretching from South America to Southeast Asia. Chapter 12. Barriers to Scientific Verification. Why the enigma remains unsolved. Even though there are bold claims and fascinating photos of Gornaya Shoria, there is still no clear answer about what the site really is. The biggest reason for this is simple. There has been almost no real scientific research done there. No major digs, no university studies, and no peer-reviewed papers. Why not? There are many reasons, and they help explain why many other strange discoveries are also ignored or forgotten. The first problem is the location. Gornaya Shoria is in a very remote part of Siberia. The mountains are covered in thick forests and are hard to reach. There are no easy roads, no nearby towns, and almost no infrastructure. To get there, you need a well-planned expedition, special equipment, and help from locals. Because it is so difficult to reach, only a few small private groups have visited. No major universities or research teams have gone there. The second problem is money. Archaeological research is expensive, but most of the funding goes to sites that fit with what historians and archaeologists already believe, places with pottery, bones, tools, or writing. Gornaya Shoria has none of that. It's seen as a strange mystery, not a proven site. So researchers have a hard time getting money to study it. There are also legal and government hurdles. To dig in Russia, especially in remote or protected areas, you need permission from the government. That process can be slow and complicated. There may be rules in place to protect the land or limit controversial work. Chapter 13. Conclusion. The weight of possibility. Between stone and story. Right now, we do not have enough proof to say for sure what this place is. No one has found tools, carvings, bones, or objects that clearly show people were there. No one has done proper digging, testing, or dating. So we are stuck in between. We see something strange, but we don't fully understand it. This kind of mystery is not new. All over the world, there are ancient sites that do not fit our normal timeline. Massive stone blocks in Peru, underwater ruins near Japan, huge buildings buried in Turkey. All of these places raise the same big question. What don't we know about the past? Gornaya Shoria may not give us answers yet, but it gives us a reason to ask questions. If we keep an open mind, use careful science, and don't jump to conclusions, we might one day solve the mystery.